So my name's Carissa. I'm from Casa Grande, born and raised here. I'm a mom of one. Her name is Solana. It's my biggest blessing I've ever had. Growing up, it was just my mom and then my two younger brothers. My dad was on and off drugs pretty much like since I was born. I didn't have the fatherly love that I would have wanted so bad. And I knew who God was as a kid, but I was forced to go to church. So, I mean, like, I didn't really have that relationship with him. I had to learn to grow up. The times that I was with my dad, the times that I had visitation, I was the protector. I had to be the parent for my brothers. I saw my dad get arrested. I remember I was at my friend's house and I had to be about like 8 or 9. I pretty much told my mom everything that was going on, and my mom did what was best, and she took my dad to court to get full custody of me and my two younger brothers. It was kind of then when my life started to spiral. I had the group of friends that I had the mix of the good ones and the mix of the bad ones. I didn't want to disappoint my mom, so I just tried to stay in my lane. I didn't really know what to do. I didn't know how to pray. I didn't know how to talk to God. I didn't know how to do any of that. When I was in high school, that's when it was really bad. I was seeking attention from these guys in school because I felt like that's what I was supposed to do. There was this guy that I saw interest in. I thought he was an age that he was telling me. I went to his house and we were just talking. I had to go to the restroom and he followed me. As soon as the door shut, it's like I felt my heart drop, and I knew something was going to happen that I wasn't ready for. I just remember seeing black. I was on the ground and it's like asking God, like why? Like, is it my fault? Did I do something? Like, did I trigger this? So no amount of showers that I took made me feel clean. I was working too, so there was a guy that I also met. Fast forward into like my 1.5 year of us being together, my mom started going to church, and I remember her telling me like, you should go. At this point, when I was 19, I had already left that job where that guy was working. We were still together. I started hearing things from my friends from that work there. They were telling me things that he was doing. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to Fountains of Living Waters just to give it a try, see how it is. Everything that Pastor Josh was saying was on the dot of everything that I was going through. And I was like, who told you that? Nobody's supposed to know that. So how do you know that? I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep going every Sunday. This is something that I'm going to make a priority. I finally built up the courage to leave that relationship I was in. After I had left the whole relationship, I still was going to church, but I was living halfway with God and halfway in the world. I started slowly stopping going to church. I remember they had this women's conference. Well, they were doing a raffle, and with this raffle, I never win anything, so I wasn't expecting to win, but they called my ticket, and I was like, oh, it's me. So when I got it, it was Joshua 1:9, and I felt like God was like, I'm still here. He was still with me, even though I was living for both him and the world. Within that time frame of me not going to church, I noticed like a whole change. I started to just do things that I shouldn't have. And it was later that I found out that it was the spirit of Jezebel. When I was 20, 21, I also got into another relationship. He gave me a picture that I fell for. He was a really bad drinker, so I started to follow that kind of. He manipulated me to where I had nobody in my circle. I separated myself from my friends. I separated myself from my own family. It took me so long to forgive myself for that. My dad was writing me, so our relationship was getting a little bit better. He finally got access to be able to speak to me on the phone. I was on the phone and I was talking to my dad, and we were having a conversation, and then I look up and he's telling me to put it on speaker so he can hear what my dad's saying. And I like mouthed the words like, no. I went to go see my mom. My mom didn't know anything. She didn't know what was going on. But I acted like everything was okay. And the guy had my location, so everywhere I went, he was messaging me, where are you going? Whose house are you at? Just harassing me. So as soon as I got back, it was like the world was flipped upside down. So then he came in and was like, threw me on the bed. Then he proceeded to tell me how worthless I was and that I wasn't ever going to be enough. I was so mad at God for like the longest time. I packed up all my things and I ran out of that place so fast. I just broke. I told my mom, and then my brother, told him everything. Obviously, like, he wasn't the happiest person in the world to find out that I left. He started blowing up my phone, saying ugly things to me, and I was like, what do I do? So I let my mom know and I let my brother know, and they were telling me that I needed to report it. So we went to court and it was approved that I had the order of protection. I remember my mom always telling me to just pray. I would here and there, but I was too busy just like fulfilling the desires of what I wanted. The first year of being in a relationship with my daughter's dad was good. There was things that I didn't know up until we had broken up the first time. I started feeling like I wasn't enough, kind of like how I felt from my childhood till an adult. So then a few months later goes by, he reaches out, so we get back together, and then a month later found out I was pregnant. The reaction I got wasn't what I had expected. My stepdad would always send me scriptures and always tell me to talk to God. Even though I had fallen off of talking to God, praying, going to church, God was still trying to call me. I knew that God was calling me, and the call was getting louder, loud enough to where I couldn't even ignore it. I remember my friend, she had told me about this church, told me about Passion. My first day at Passion was in May of 22. The moment that I walked in, I felt the love just overpower. I sat in the very back, and worship was going on, and the song of God Turned It Around. I immediately started crying. Now that I'm ready to turn my life around, God's telling me He's gonna turn it around. In September, when the women's retreat was going, I remember just sitting there in the back of church, like, oh, I want to go to that, but I don't know anybody. I just bought a ticket, even though I didn't know anybody. So I got there and I messaged Rocio, and she told me, like, okay, I'll be right there. So she helped me with my stuff. She introduced me to everybody. God made a big shift at that retreat. And from that moment on, my life changed. I remember I was still kind of like living for the world and living for God at that point. Even with that shift change, I was struggling with it a lot. When my daughter was a year old, I wasn't coming as much, but I was still praying. I still felt like it wasn't good enough. In the year 23, I remember they started hosting the life groups. I think this is like when I really started to press in. God made me who I am. God made me beautiful, and I had to believe it. After all that I've been through, I forgave myself. I forgave all those people that said these things to me. They don't have a hold on me anymore. I know that I'm beautiful now. I know that I'm worthy. And I know that God's by my side. My daughter's gonna be the first generation to grow up in a church. The moment I wake up, I thank God. And then as soon as I go to sleep, I thank God. Because God shifted me these past 2 years. There's this scripture that kind of kept me going. It's Psalms 30 verse 5. For his anger lasts only a moment, but his favor lasts a lifetime. Weeping may last through the night, but joy comes with the morning. Even though there's a storm, joy's gonna come in the morning. May not be the next day, may not be a week from now, it may be months from now. So through that storm that I was going through, God pulled me out. He got me to the other side. And I'm here now. I'm serving. I've been serving for a good year. I'm a lead. And I've been, reaching one more. I've been bringing people to the church, planting those seeds for God. And I've seen changes in the people's lives that I brought to the church. And it brings me so much joy just to see that. And not only that, but the time apart that me and my daughter's dad had, I thank God for it, because there's a reason for everything. And now him and I are working things out. God's in the center. God's going to restore what was once broken. And I just thank God so much for this, because I knew this is what God had in store for me this whole time.